$500 car.
Myth.
Goodbye, everybody. $500 car, can you do it?
They're out there.
Very rare.
Very rare.
I mean, we found one. We actually got one. But I think we got one because it was a situation of circumstance. And that's usually where you're going to find a $500 car, is a situation of circumstance. That somebody needs to get rid of that car for whatever reason. This guy was losing his spot that he had kept the car at the rental facility where we picked it up. So the one you're looking at behind me, and I'll have Darren put a picture of it up right here if you're not following along with what we've already done on the car with Man at Mechanical and trying to get it to start. This is a 1966 Falcon Futura 4-door. To older guys, it's got a strike against it because it's not a 2-door. I find that young people don't really give a crap about that. 4-doors don't matter to young people. It's just an old car, and they like the old car. So it wasn't a bad thing on that front for Jackson, who we got the car for. We didn't get it. He actually bought the car and paid for it right away. So
in fact, it's a benefit because they don't sell, so they're normally cheaper.
They're normally cheaper, so that was one thing it had going for it. Plus that little Falcon, I hate to say it, but that is an exceptionally attractive 4-door.
Yeah.
For what it is,
yeah,
think about the cars from that general era. Almost all the rest of the 4-doors look like you should be wearing a grandma wig with the little round glasses, hunched over the steering wheel, kind of like Jackson, or kind of like Joseph drives a mower.
Yeah.
Sorry, Joseph. But that is what we got. We got it for $500. That car started out at $6,000, which was, Mike, I'm sorry if you're watching the show, that was a lot of money to ask for that car. Yeah. Okay. Then he dropped it to $5,000, then he dropped it to $2,000, and then right when we went to go look at it, he had it at $1,500, and I figured now's the time to jump, because if we can get it for like $1,200, it'll be a good deal, because he did say that the car runs. So we went down there. Bottom line is we got it for $500 because of all the extenuating circumstances around the car that were going on for Mike at the time that we bought it. So there you go. They are out there. They are just exceptionally rare. On the whole, Jackson annoyed the piss out of me with sending constant streams of old cars, anywhere from $10,000 down to $500, some of them $150, but that was basically just the back half of a 1962 Falcon. I'm hoping he was just kidding about that one.
Making a trailer.
Old camper. So you can find them, but not real easy to come by on that front.
They are a circumstantial based thing now.
I honestly think anytime you're finding a $500 car, it's a circumstance.
Honestly, in this market, any reasonable deal is a circumstance. The car market that I've seen has just gone nuts.
You know, even the Torino, with all the things that came with that car when we got it, the Grand Torino, a lot of that was a circumstance. He was just tired of it sitting in his backyard going to waste, and he wanted somebody to get the car and take care of it and do things to it. We were a perfect match for him with the car. Did we pay too much for the car? No. Did we pay too little for the car? No. Yeah. We paid a rough value of what that car was with all the parts with it, in my opinion. Yeah. Now, I think that car alone, with the little things fixed that we're going to be doing to the car, will be a $5,000 car when we get done with it.
$3,200 for the car as it sat was value.
So we know as established baseline that $500 is rare.
Yes. Yeah, very, very.
So you can do a $500 car, but it is a circumstantial situation. Number 2 on our list, does it have a title?
Yeah, big thing.
That is really a big thing in some states. There are states that don't really give a crap. Georgia's one that is, if it's over 25 years old, you can sell it with a bill of sale and nobody's going to say boo about it, and they'll still title it in Georgia. And other states will have reciprocity on that. If you buy it in Georgia, bring it over to the South Carolina side with a bill of sale, the DMV will typically honor that bill of sale from the state of Georgia.
They're supposed to, but it's still kind of...
I still get hinky on it. I don't like buying something without a title. And I'll tell you a little story on this, kind of a sidebar on this. I had a friend of mine years ago who bought a 70 Mach 1. It was a really nice car. He paid less than going value for the car, which for me is automatically a suspect. I can see it being $500 or $800 less. I can't see it being $2,000 or more or less, which is kind of where this car was at. He buys this car, He takes it to a car show. Weirdly, the owner of the car comes up to the car and knows that that's his car because the car was stolen like 10 years before. Bottom line, the police got involved. The VINs were found on the car, the real VINs. The car did indeed belong to the other guy. So my buddy who bought the car had to say via con Dios to everything, including probably his cash. I don't know what the end being on that was, but just kind of a thing. Caveat emptor on my sidebar. Be careful if it's too good a deal.
Probably is.
Probably is.
Yeah.
I guess one of the things you're really looking for is, does it have the potential to run, or do you have an engine that will fit it? Because that's something that I hadn't thought about before. If you're buying a $500 car, if you have, say, you've got a clapped out Chevelle at the house, but it's got a good running 350 and a TH 350 behind it, and you find a really nice body for $500 with a title, can you marry those two things together to make a good car?
Yep.
You take the clapped out Chevelle, you part it out, you get the engine out of it, and you put it in your other $500 Chevelle.
Now you got a $550 Chevelle.
You're not going to find, I have not found a $500 Chevelle.
Maybe
even four doors
like
are
a
going.
Hot Wheels.
It's going to be one of the rare ones, though. So you're not going to do it. But if you did, that's the instance where that could work, okay? You find a car and you have something at the house that it goes with, and this car's body and interior and everything is in better shape than the one you have. So you buy that car and you mix everything together and you come up with a decent car in the end. That's where you find cars out there where people have done that, and they're selling the clapped out car for $1,500 to recoup the cost of the car that they bought.
And if you can do that, then you recoup everything.
You can recoup the
you're
money.
At net zero then.
Unless you're the guy that's buying the clapped out car.
Yeah.
But does it run? Does it have the capability of running is the next question. With that, you need to know if the transmission's going to work. You need to know if the engine's going to work. Because we were in the first instance on that car, we knew we had a running 206 here. We also have a couple of C4s laying around since that car is a C4 automatic. All you got to do is pull the bell housing off of it, get another torque converter, and bada bing, you're back in business. We had the wherewithal around the shop here to do the things that needed to be done to make that car work. So for me, it was a good deal. It was a decent deal at $1,500, which is where I thought we were. Always ask this question if you're doing a $500 car. Is that your bottom dollar? That man jumped off the cliff. I mean, because I figured he'd say, well, I can probably come down to $1,300 or $1,100. He jumped off the cliff, flew his arms out, and made a magnificent swan dive for the water and said $500.
Pulling out your wallet.
Couldn't get my wallet out quick enough. Do you take a credit card? So we got the car for $500. Again, somewhat of a sidebar. Does it roll?
Yes.
You would be surprised how big of a problem that can actually be with a classic car.
Yeah. The front hubs wet rust welded together. It's been sitting 10 years. Drum brakes are locked up.
We were surprised. I mean, I felt like the car, when he helped us actually push the car out. We had already kind of signed the deal because, again, we have enough stuff laying around here that if it didn't roll, I got a way to make it roll.
We can make it roll.
I can make it roll for $500, and that's the problem with a $500 car. You start thinking,
in any way, it's worth it.
I can do this. I can make this happen. So we were able to make it roll, and that is a big problem if you don't have that parts car laying around. If you don't have the extra stuff, you need to make sure that car will roll. It doesn't have to stop because that Falcon dang sure won't stop, because what I'm showing you a little bit of video right now of me pushing on the brake pedal. Please note that the brake pedal is not moving. So we either have a master cylinder problem or we have a mount problem. That could really be a problem for us, actually.
Yes, the mount.
Might as well just do a modern driveline 5-speed at that point, right?
Yeah.
6-cylinder 5-speed. That'd be fun.
$3,000 transmission kit and a $500 box. That's great. Great planning.
See, you're getting the car cheap so you can spend more money on it.
Yeah, you can splurge in places that it doesn't really need.
Look, you're clouding the issues.
You just got a magic transmission behind a 6-cylinder that can't hit 60.
Your car can't. I'm not going down this rabbit hole with you. I'm not. You're going to stay right there on the surface. You can taunt me all you want. I'm not going there. Okay, so the other problem is parts availabilities. Now, that is a place that we do have somewhat of an issue with this particular car because this car is a 66 Falcon.
And a four-door.
And a four-door. On the plus side of this car, there's a ton of Fairlane stuff that crossbreeds to it. You can do, all the front suspension is Fairlane / Mustang 1967 on up. You can do a rear axle out of another Fairlane if you want to change it over to a 5-lug system. So there's a lot of things that you can do under the car and even in the floor pans of the car right now inside the United States if you have that same Falcon four-door. Even the weather strips are now available thanks to the guys in Australia and their massive love for the Falcon series cars over there. If we lived in Australia and would manage to get that car for $500 Aussie, everyone we know
Be wanting to buy
would be wanting to buy it. We would have viewers writing in because it's a fairly rust-free car. Every Fairlane I've ever run across has rusted floor pans, most all of them. If they don't, it's actually a little weird.
Yeah.
And the Aussies, because most of their cars are coastal, those old cars like that tend to be rusty. So that car would fly very well in Australia, as I've said before. And I've even had one of our viewers write in and say, yeah, mate, that car would go very well in Oz.
Yeah, mate.
That's what he said. Stay away from that rabbit hole. But the big thing you're looking for is parts availability. Because if you don't have the parts available for it, you're going to get stalled, and installed cars, what causes cars like that to become available on Marketplace and Craigslist and all these other places, even some of the groups that you'll see out there for Torinos, Fairlanes, you know, Chevelles, whatever.
Or you're going to end up spending so much money on parts that aren't really essential that you're not even going to want to touch it anymore.
Well, it's like Jackson's already running the problem of trying to replace the Falcon upper trim on the back of the fenders because it's a Futura.
Yeah.
A, that car didn't see a lot of Futuras built probably, but B, try to find that trim in really good shape. It's going to be really tough to find those pieces that hadn't been knocked.
You could probably find a couple coupe sets, but not a four-door set.
We actually know a guy here locally that we could have gotten the coupe sets from.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's not going to work with the four-door. One of the other things I wanted to talk about is how much can you do?
That's a big part of getting a cheap car, is you're either going to put your time into it and your effort, or you're going to have to pay somebody else, and then it's no longer a $500 car.
No, and I mean, you're going to go in excess of thousands of dollars pretty darn quickly. I don't know what they're charging out there in the market for floor pan installs, but the floor pans on that car itself are going to need to be done.
The whole pan, just assume $1,500, $2,000.
Because you're already looking at, I think the pans are in the $700 range for the Fairlane pan, which is what that is.
They're going to mark it up 30%.
They're going to mark it up. They're also going to mark up for the install. You're going to have to pay for removal of the old pan. It starts to get out of hand in a hurry. So are you capable of welding? Are you capable of doing engine work on a car? Are you capable of rebuilding brakes on a car? Do you want to learn those things? I mean, that's actually what this channel is all about. We're here to teach you how to do those things on classic cars. But some people aren't built that way. My stepson Logan, he's really not that into the car hobby. He wants to
enjoy the car.
He wants to enjoy the car. Jackson is more a how do we put this thing together guy. We've already seen that with this one because it doesn't look now like it looked when we bought it that Saturday. It's pretty. I'm not going to dish you, Logan. But that's. Anyway, Jackson has already gone in and actually done a lot of things to his Falcon upon buying the Falcon. We got it back and he immediately started pulling all the excess tape that the former owner had put on to primer the car out. So all that tape's being removed. And I mean, he's doing it.
That's one of the most important things to me is when you get it, like actually assess it and clean it down to the bare bones.
Yes, assessing is really important to know. And you have to kind of assess it when you're buying the $500 car on the fly. Now, here's another hot tip for buying a $500 car. If you find one on Marketplace and you want to go look at it, take a couple of hours and go out on the web and see what's available for those cars. Because if you don't do that, you're going to walk in blind, you're going to buy this car that you don't have the parts for, and you're going to be the guy with the stalled project, and you may not get but about $600 back out of it, and that's probably what you're going to have in the car and gasoline to get it home. Just saying.
And also look at common problems and then inspect the vehicle when you're there for those. If you know it rusts out at this certain spot commonly on that body, make sure that spot's good.
I would say knowing the model of car that you're working on, knowing the caveats within those cars, like, let's just say, we'll talk what I know the most, which is the Falcons and the Mustangs. I know all the rust spots on those cars. When I went to look at the black car that we did the video on, I told you about buying a car, I already know what to look for on a Mustang. And so when I'm looking at those cars, I have a good ability to know what we're already going to need to be working on. So with a car like that Falcon, the same thing. I know that a 66 Falcon, like a 66 Fairlane, because that car is 50 plus years old, guess what? You're probably going to be doing toe boards and floor pans in those cars typically. I had hoped that it would be a little better than it is, but I'm okay with that because I'm not going to be doing the welding. Jackson is!
You're going to have a sweet tan by the end of this.
Right around the neck, and right around the neck and his arms and stuff, because you'll be all tan from it. It's going to be nice. Jackson's going to have fun. But within all that, it's a learning process for Jackson. He bought this car, and I felt like I had hoped with Logan, and I'm not indicting Logan. What we're doing is we're finding out well, I'm kind of indicting Logan.
I am.
What we're doing is we're finding out what they like.
Yeah.
We know now that we are never going to do that again with Logan, not because of anything other than the fact that it's just too much of a project for how busy he is.
Yeah, he's got all the side work. And
he's got his lawn business he's running right now, doing really well with that, but that's sucking up a lot of his daylight. And because I have 17,000 other projects plus buses to care for around here, I don't have the time. So that's the very big last thing in all of this is the time factor and
along with the ability to do the work, do you have the time?
Do you have the time to do the work? Because that's what stalls a lot of projects too. I have a guy I know in Dallas that is a friend of mine who has had a beautiful, well, could be beautiful Cyclone CJ, 1968 Cyclone CJ 4-speed car that is sitting in his garage probably right now. And because he has a very successful small business, he has a family with like 4 kids. Most of the kids are now moving on to going to college. So he is about to be able to have more time to work on it. He hasn't had time in the last 20 years, which is how long I've known he's had that car. He hasn't had time in the last 20 years to work on it.
It's like just the paint on the Torino. That's a 15-hour job if you're unexperienced.
Yeah.
Like you could probably crank it out in 8.
Yeah, I could probably pop that car in 8 if I just did the green and didn't worry about the white, which I wouldn't. The Torino is an example of a car that you could really get upside down on with time.
Yeah.
And speaking of upside down, the very last thing I wanted to talk about on this video is a lot of people talk about making money on classic cars. I call BS. I'm sorry. If you're getting into this to make money, you have to be running a restoration shop.
Or you have to enter it with only the thought process of profit.
So you don't want to be upside down on a car.
Yeah.
That's the thing. But
it happens quick.
You're going to do it.
Yeah.
Just realize if you buy an old car for $500, you're going to be upside down on that car probably. Do it because you want to learn. Do it because you love that car for whatever reason. For the passion of it. You have to be passionate about what you're working on. If you're not passionate about the car you're working on, it's going to sit in your garage until you get to a point where you're so frustrated looking at it, you're just going to sell it. And you may sell it for $600 because you haven't really been able to do anything to it because, you can't find parts and all those other things. Be wary of buying a car because it's just like the one Grandma Tilly had, and it's a 1959 Nash.
Yeah. Something that you're not actually going to enjoy.
You might enjoy looking at it,
but operating it, driving it,
buying parts for it. There's certain cars that are going to be really hard to get parts for. That's why I say before you go, let's go back over it real quick. Before you go buy a $500 car, go out and look at the internet to see what parts are available for it. Go out on the internet and find out what kind of problems those cars typically have. If they are bad about the cowls rusting out, causing the floor pans to fall out of them, and you can't get cowls and you can't get floor pans, you're automatically in the hole. Make sure that the car runs and drives. Make sure that if it doesn't run and drive, make sure that you can make it run and drive in a fairly short order. That had been one of Deanna's caveats. She said it has to run and drive. And I thought, I think we can make this car run and drive fairly easily.
Yeah.
And so we have found all the things around us, so to speak.
And even if it didn't run and drive, we have enough stuff to throw a small block in it or something.
We've got a 6-cylinder.
Yeah.
We can, if that transmission works, we can poke that 6-cylinder right on the back of it. We'll have to go out and get the crank redone in it,
Yeah.
but it's there, and it's something that we can do fairly quickly. We are in an unusual position compared to most people. Well, that's it, folks. That's our show for this week. Be sure to do me a favor and be kind to each other, love on each other, treat each other nice. You guys have a great week, and we'll see you next time on Autorestomod. He's not even looked at it.
Honestly depressing. I can say my Mustang looks better than
I've seen his Mustang.
Yeah,
doesn't
it's
look
not
better.
so great right
It's,
now.
it's bad.
I need to drag it.
I bet he doesn't even know where that bottom front hinge is on the door.
Yeah, what if he just like parked it somewhere else for a few weeks?
I thought about doing that. I thought about doing that with Nolan's Herman's tortoise, Ruby, and just not say anything to him and just.
Where's Waldo?
Yeah, where's Waldo? I don't know where. She must have broke out. I know. I don't do these things. I have a lot more thoughts in my head that I actually don't put into action. So you guys should be thankful for that. Truly thankful for that.